If you go from 12:3 to chapter 15, verse 13, which we're not covering all that this morning, Paul unpacks verses 1 through 2. After we go through that, we begin to dig deeper. And there's this phrase Paul uses called, "For by grace given to me." Paul's letting everyone know that his position as an apostle came to him as a result of God's grace. Paul was not selected by church officials. Paul did not go through some specific or school. Paul did not have this approval of the council. You know, when Paul started out his ministry, he started out because God called him. It was by God's grace. If you look at who Paul was when he was Saul and what he was doing to the church in his persecution, you know, we know he held coats of people while they were stoning Christians. The truth is, Paul probably did more than hold coats. And to go from a guy who was a persecutor, lending a hand and taking the lives of Christians, to being one of the leaders, that is a huge movement, a huge step. And the only way that something like that happens is not only by God transforming the individual, but by God calling the individual and the church recognizing that calling. And when we see that, we understand that Paul is telling us it's only by grace that I'm here where I'm at. When one realizes that our gifts are from God, it helps us to keep centered and not to think too highly of ourselves. It helps us to understand also that our gifts are not so lowly, that we might not think we have the same talents as other persons, and therefore maybe we're not of the same value. That Paul is trying to tell us the gifts that we have been given are by the grace of God. They're meant for us. There isn't one that is higher or lower than the other. God intended for us to have them and to use them. The phrase measure of faith then means faith in each one, qualifying them for receiving and using correctly. Jesus uses these words in Matthew 17:20. Truly, I tell you, if you have the faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to them, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. The size, listen to this morning, the size of one's faith impacts the world. The size of one's faith impacts the world. Last night, I was having a horrible time. You ever been like that, tossing and turning? Now, I think, to be a positive guy from up here in the pulpit. Maybe that's just my own mind, but that's who I think I am when I'm up here. I want to tell you what I'm really like. I am a worst-case scenario guy. I am thinking about everything that could go wrong. I'm thinking about if I do A and B, then C is probably going to be the result. I'm trying to figure out every possible outcome so that I can help affect the right outcome rather than the wrong outcome. And the truth is, you just can't control all those variables. It just does not work that way. For instance, my wife has talked about this idea of going on a cruise, and we've gone on one, and taking our kids. You know what all I think about? One of my kids falling over the side into the ocean. That's all I can think about. And I told her, if we go on one, I will not be able to relax the whole time we're there. It will not be a vacation for me, because all I will be thinking about is that one of my kids is going to fall over in the water and get them. That's my mind. That's what's going to happen. My mind would not shut down. I started thinking about, I'm always about the church. I'm always thinking about the health of the church. I'm always thinking about the life of the church. And in my mind, I started thinking about all the things that are not need to be. Began stress, and it caused me to worry. And I just went through situation after situation after situation after situation. And then God's Spirit entered into the room and said, Brett, do you believe better days are ahead? Well, I said, yeah. But then I started thinking, do I really believe that? Do I really believe better days are ahead? Or is that just something I say because it's the right thing to say? And then I began to think to myself, God, if you believe better days are ahead, then I can believe better days are ahead, because I can trust you. And once I began to accept that and to claim that, then a peace began to sweep over me, and my body finally relaxed, and I finally went to sleep. And then one of our cats woke me up in the middle of the night, scratching on my face. So that's the way that devil works through all kinds of means, doesn't he? Faith is involved in not only becoming a follower of Jesus, but also in one's day-to-day living. In the church, there is a distribution of gifts, and each member possesses his own measure of which there is a corresponding faith by which and within the limits of which those gifts can be exercised. The deeper our faith becomes, the more involved we will be willing to be in the body of Christ, His church. Just participation in song. 12:4 says this: for each with many members, and these members do not all have the same function. All these are different parts that